Meet David Chen. 35 years old, CEO of a tech company worth $50 million. Designer suits that cost more than most people's cars. A penthouse overlooking the city. Fast cars in his garage. The perfect life that everyone envied. But David had a secret problem that was eating him alive. His wife, Sarah, was sick. Really sick. Breast cancer had been destroying her body for 2 long years. First, it started small, just a lump. Then came the surgeries, the chemo, the endless hospital visits. And David? He was getting tired of it all. Sarah used to be beautiful. Long black hair, bright smile. She was a yoga instructor when they met. Strong, independent, full of life. Now she was bald from chemo. Her skin was gray. She threw up every morning. She couldn't work, couldn't cook, could barely get out of bed most days. I can't do this anymore, David told his best friend Marcus over expensive whiskey at their private club. She's different now. Weak, broken. I married a strong woman, not this shell of a person. Marcus nearly choked on his drink. Dude, she's fighting for her life. She needs you now more than ever. I know what you're thinking, but I'm only 35, Marcus. I have my whole life ahead of me. I deserve to be happy. I deserve a partner who can actually be a partner. David, this is your wife we're talking about. My wife died 2 years ago when the cancer started. This person? This isn't the woman I married. David started working late. Really late. He'd come home when Sarah was already asleep. He'd leave before she woke up. He hired a nurse to take care of her during the day. Where were you last night? Sarah asked one morning, her voice barely a whisper. Working. The company needs me. I need you too, David. He couldn't look at her. The nurse is here. You're fine. Then came the day that changed everything. David had made his decision. He walked into their bedroom with 2 suitcases. What are you doing? Sarah asked from her bed. I'm leaving, Sarah. I filed for divorce yesterday. My lawyer will contact you. Sarah's face went white. What? David, no. Please. We can work through this. There's nothing to work through. You can keep the small house downtown. I'm keeping the penthouse, the cars, the business. My lawyer says that's fair since you can't work anyway. Sarah's hands shook. She was so thin now, so fragile, like a bird with broken wings. David, please. I'm scared. I need you. The doctors say I might beat this. The new treatment is working. You need doctors. Not me. I can't watch you die, Sarah. I won't. So you're going to leave me to die alone? David grabbed his bags. I'm not leaving you to die. I'm leaving you to live without me holding you back. And just like that, he walked out the door. Didn't look back. Didn't say goodbye. But this story, it's just getting started. Because karma has a funny way of keeping score. 6 months later, David was living what he thought was his best life. New penthouse apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows, new car, a red Ferrari that turned heads everywhere he went, and most importantly, a new girlfriend, Jessica Martinez, 25 years old, Instagram model with 2 million followers, long legs, perfect smile, and not a care in the world. You made the right choice leaving her, Jessica said, admiring the diamond bracelet David had just bought her. Life's too short to waste on sick people. You only live once, right? David smiled as he poured champagne. Exactly. I feel like I can breathe again. Besides, Jessica continued, taking a selfie with the city view behind her, you're successful, handsome, rich. You deserve someone who can keep up with you. Someone who can travel, party, live life to the fullest. That's what I kept trying to tell people. They don't understand. Meanwhile, 300 miles away, Sarah had moved back to her small hometown of Cedar Falls, population 8,000, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone. She lived in a tiny apartment above her sister Emma's bakery, no money for the big cancer treatments now. The divorce had left her with almost nothing, just basic insurance that covered the bare minimum. Have you heard from David at all? Emma asked, bringing Sarah soup she could barely keep down. Sarah shook her head. He blocked my number. Changed his email? It's like I never existed. I still can't believe he did this to you. I can. I saw how he looked at me those last few months, like I was already dead. But here's what David didn't know, what he couldn't have imagined. Sarah wasn't just fighting cancer anymore. She was fighting for something bigger. Unable to work a regular job, Sarah started spending her days online. She joined cancer support groups, started talking to other patients, other people who felt scared and alone. And then she had an idea. "Hi everyone, I'm Sarah," she said into her phone camera. "I know you're scared. I know you feel alone. I know because I'm going through this too." She started making videos from her tiny apartment. No fancy equipment, no professional lighting, just her, sitting on her couch, talking to other cancer patients. "Today, I want to talk about the fear," she said in one video. "The fear that everyone will leave you, that you'll become a burden, that you'll die alone." Her voice cracked. "My husband left me 6 months ago, filed for divorce, said he couldn't watch me die. So I understand that fear because it came true for me. Something magical happened. Her videos started getting views, hundreds, then thousands, then millions. Comments poured in from people all over the world. "Sarah, you saved my life. I was ready to give up, but your video made me fight. Thank you for showing me I'm not alone." The local news picked up her story, then national news, CNN, Good Morning America, The Today Show. Sarah Chen, the cancer warrior who's changing lives around the world, the reporter said. From her small apartment in Cedar Falls, she's created a community of hope for cancer patients everywhere. They called her the Angel of Hope. Her online support group grew to 500,000 members. She partnered with hospitals to create support programs. She created millions for cancer research. David was in his corner office when his assistant burst in. "Mr. Chen, you need to see this." She turned on the TV. There was Sarah, his Sarah, being interviewed on national television, looking frail but beautiful in a way he'd forgotten. "My message is simple," Sarah was saying. "You are not your disease. You are not a burden. You are worthy of love, especially when you're at your weakest." The interviewer leaned forward. "What would you say to people who abandon loved ones during illness?" Sarah was quiet for a moment. "I'd say that's their choice, but they'll have to live with it. And sometimes living with yourself is the hardest punishment of all." David's hands were shaking. "Turn it off," he told his assistant, but he couldn't stop thinking about it. Sarah was famous. Sarah was helping people. Sarah was everything good in the world. And what was he? Then his business started cracking. It started small. One client canceled the contract. "We don't feel comfortable working with your company anymore," the client said. "Well, what did we do wrong?" "It's not what your company did, it's what you did. Word gets around, Mr. Chen, about how you treated your wife." Then another client left. Then another. David's company employed 200 people, but now nobody wanted to work with the man who abandoned his dying wife. Social media found him. His story spread, not the version he told himself, but the truth. Comments flooded his company's pages. "Disgusting human being. How can you abandon someone you promised to love? Sarah deserves so much better." Even Jessica started having doubts. "People are talking, David. My followers are asking why I'm with you. It's hurting my brand." "Your brand? I can't be associated with someone who, did what you did." Within a month, she was gone too, left him for a younger, richer man who hadn't abandoned his dying wife. 2 years passed like a nightmare David couldn't wake up from. His company went bankrupt. He had to fire all 200 employees, people who had families, people who trusted him. The penthouse was gone. The Ferrari was gone. Even his expensive suits were gone, sold to pay debts. He lived in a small studio apartment now, the kind of place he used to make fun of. One room, a fold-out bed, a hot plate for cooking ramen noodles. Every night, he watched Sarah's videos. She looked sicker, but somehow more beautiful, more at peace. She had helped thousands of people find hope when they had none. And him? He had nothing. No one. He was completely alone. One rainy Thursday night, David couldn't take it anymore. He got in his old car, a 2010 Honda that barely ran, and drove 3 hours to Cedar Falls. He had to see her, had to apologize, had to try to fix the biggest mistake of his life. Maybe it wasn't too late. Maybe she would forgive him. Maybe they could start over. The town was smaller than he remembered. Main Street had 2 traffic lights and a diner that closed at 8 p.m. He found Emma's bakery easily. There was only one bakery in town. He knocked on the door at 9 p.m. Emma answered, and when she saw him, her face turned cold as winter. "You have some nerve showing up here," Emma said. I know I messed up, but I need to see Sarah. I need to tell her I'm sorry. I need to make this right." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "You're 2 weeks too late, David." The world stopped spinning. David felt like he was falling down a deep hole. She died 2 weeks ago, peacefully, thank God, surrounded by hundreds of people who loved her, people whose lives she saved through her videos and her work. No, that can't be right. She was getting better. The videos showed she was fighting. She was winning. She was fighting, David, every single day for 3 years. But cancer doesn't care how brave you are. It doesn't care how many people you help. It takes what it wants. David felt like he couldn't breathe. Where is she?" Emma pointed down the street. "Hillside Cemetery, 3 blocks that way." The whole town came to her funeral. People flew in from other countries. The mayor gave her the key to the city. "They're building a statue in her honor." She paused, wiping her eyes. "But you know what, David? In all those videos, in all those interviews, she never once said anything bad about you, never told the world how you abandoned her. She protected you, even after you destroyed her." David walked through the rain to Hillside Cemetery. He didn't need to ask where Sarah's grave was. He could see it from the entrance. Hundreds of flowers, thousands of them, roses, lilies, sunflowers, cards and letters stacked high, photos of families she'd helped, children holding signs that said, "Thank you, Angel Sarah." The headstone was simple. Sarah Michelle Chen, beloved daughter, sister, and friend to the world. She taught us that love is stronger than fear. David fell to his knees in the mud. The rain mixed with his tears. All the grief he'd been hiding for 3 years came pouring out. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "God, Sarah, I'm so sorry. I was scared. I was selfish. I was a coward." He stayed there for hours, reading the cards from strangers, stories of people Sarah had saved, families she'd kept together, hope she'd given when there was none left. "She saved my marriage," one card read. "When my husband got sick, I wanted to leave, but Sarah's videos taught me what real love looks like." Another, "My daughter watched Sarah's videos during chemo. Sarah gave her the strength to keep fighting. My daughter is cancer-free now because of Sarah's hope." There were hundreds of them, thousands. Sarah had touched more lives in 3 years than David had in his entire successful career, and he had missed all of it. Because he was too selfish to stay, too weak to love her when love was hard. David drove home that night in the rain, alone, broke, empty, carrying the weight of the biggest regret a human being can carry. He had everything once: $50 million, success, respect, and most importantly, a woman who loved him enough to protect his reputation even after he destroyed her life. But when she needed him most, when she was scared and sick and dying, he chose himself. He chose comfort over love. He chose easy over right. Sarah became famous for teaching the world about love and hope. She saved thousands of lives. She changed the world. David became famous for showing the world what happens when you abandon love, when you run from hard times, when you choose yourself over the person who needs you most. The difference? Sarah's fame came from lifting others up. David's came from tearing others down. Today, there's a statue of Sarah in Cedar Falls. Children learn about her in school. Her foundation has raised $50 million for cancer research. Her videos still get millions of views from people who need hope. And David? He lives alone, works a regular job, drives an old car. Nobody knows his name anymore. But every night, he watches Sarah's videos. And every night, he remembers what real love looks like. And every night, He lives with the knowledge that he had it once, and he threw it away. The moral of this story? Love isn't just for the good times. Real love shows up when things get hard, when people get sick, when life gets scary and messy and unfair. David learned this lesson, but he learned it 2 weeks too late.